When Kylie Kelce's 7-year-old daughter screamed, "I hate you, Mom," in the middle of a Philadelphia Target on July 14, 2024, Kylie didn't cry because the words hurt, though they did. She cried because she was so exhausted that she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt like a good mother instead of just a surviving one. And when she finally made it to her car 30 minutes later with 3 crying children and a cart full of groceries, she'd forgotten half of what she needed. She sat in the driver's seat with her hands shaking on the steering wheel and let herself break down completely. What Kylie didn't know was that Taylor Swift was driving past that exact Target parking lot at that exact moment, returning from a recording session at a private Philadelphia studio, and her security detail was about to witness something that would make Taylor do something she almost never did in public. Stop the car and get out without a plan. Because sometimes the most important moments in life happen in the most ordinary places. And sometimes the people who save you are the ones you least expect. Let me take you back to that Sunday afternoon because you need to understand exactly how Kylie Kelce ended up having a complete emotional breakdown in a Target parking lot while one of the most famous women in the world made a split-second decision that would change everything. July 14, 2024 had started badly and gotten progressively worse with each passing hour in the way that only days with young children can deteriorate. Jason Kelce was in New York City taping segments for ESPN's Monday Night Countdown, the show where he worked as an analyst, which meant Kylie was handling all 3 kids solo for the entire weekend. Wyatt, her 7-year-old, had woken up in one of those moods that every parent dreads, the kind where everything is wrong and nothing you do can fix it. Her pancakes were too cold, then too hot, then the wrong shape. Her favorite shirt was in the laundry. Her younger sister, Elliotte, just 3 years old and going through a phase where she copied everything Wyatt did, had naturally picked up on her older sister's mood and amplified it. And Bennett, the baby at 17 months old, had decided that today was the day he would refuse to nap despite being obviously exhausted, which meant he'd been crying on and off since 10 a.m. By 2:00 p.m., they were completely out of milk, diapers, and Kylie's last shred of patience, which meant a Target run was unavoidable, despite the fact that taking 3 kids to Target on a Sunday afternoon ranked somewhere between root canal and filing taxes on Kylie's list of activities she'd rather avoid. The trip had started okay. She'd bribed Wyatt with the promise of looking at toys if she behaved, strapped Elliotte into the cart seat where she immediately started kicking her little legs, and put Bennett in the main basket where he grabbed everything within reach. But somewhere around aisle 7 near this ear cleaning supplies, everything had fallen apart. Wyatt had asked for a toy, a $30 Barbie Dreamhouse that Kylie said no to because they literally had the same toy at home. Wyatt had insisted they didn't, even though Kylie had helped her play with it just yesterday. The disagreement had escalated, Wyatt's voice getting louder and more insistent, attracting the attention of other shoppers who were now watching this very public parenting moment with varying degrees of judgment and sympathy. Kylie had knelt down to Wyatt's eye level, using her calmed voice to explain that they weren't buying toys today, that they had the same toy at home, and that Wyatt needed to use her inside voice. And that's when Wyatt, her sweet 7-year-old, who usually gave the best hugs and told Kylie she was the best mom in the world, had shouted loud enough for half the store to hear, "I hate you, Mom. You're the meanest mom ever. I wish Aunt Taylor was my mom instead." The words had hit Kylie like a physical blow. Not because she didn't know that kids say things they don't mean when they're upset, but because they touched on her deepest insecurity, the fear that had been growing stronger since Taylor Swift had entered their family's life. Taylor, who was beautiful and famous and talented and didn't have spit up on her shoulder or bags under her eyes or a Target cart full of diapers and cleaning supplies. Taylor, who got to be the fun aunt who showed up for the good moments and then left before the tantrums and the bedtimes and the endless exhausting reality of parenting. Kylie had felt tears starting and had fought them back because she was in the middle of Target and at least 20 people were watching and she couldn't fall apart here. Not now. She'd somehow made it through checkout. Wyatt sulking. 3-year-old Elliotte crying because Wyatt was crying. Bennett screaming because he was tired and Kylie moving on autopilot, scanning items and swiping her card and loading bags into the cart while internally screaming. Getting all 3 kids into the car had been its own nightmare. Wyatt had refused to get in her car seat, going completely limp in that way kids do when they're being difficult. Elliotte had dropped her sippy cup in the parking lot and it had rolled under a car. Bennett had thrown his pacifier and then screamed about not having his pacifier. By the time Kylie finally got all 3 kids strapped in, groceries loaded in the trunk and cart returned to the corral, she was done. Completely, utterly done. She collapsed into the driver's seat, closed the door and just started crying. Not the gentle tears of someone having a moment, but the ugly crying of someone who has been holding it together for too long and finally can't anymore. Her shoulders were shaking, her breath was coming in gasps, and she couldn't stop even though she knew the kids could see her from the back seat, and that probably wasn't great for them either. She just needed 60 seconds to fall apart before she pulled herself together enough to drive home. Meanwhile, about 2 blocks away, Taylor Swift was in the back of a black SUV being driven by her security team. She'd spent the afternoon at a private recording studio in Philadelphia working on vocals for her upcoming album, and they were taking a deliberately indirect route back to where her tour bus was parked to avoid any paparazzi who might have figured out she was in the city. Taylor was scrolling through her phone, half paying attention to the route, when they drove past a Target parking lot and something caught her eye. A minivan, a woman in the driver's seat with her head down on the steering wheel, clearly crying, and through the windows she could see what looked like young children in car seats. Taylor sat up straighter, watching as they drove past. "Wait," she said to her security lead Marcus, who was driving. "Can you pull over for a second?" Marcus glanced at her in the rear-view mirror. "Everything okay?" There was a woman back there in that Target parking lot. She looked like she was having a really hard time. "Can we go back?" Marcus hesitated. This was not protocol. Taylor Swift did not just stop at random parking lots to check on strangers. "Taylor, we don't know the situation. Could be anything. It's not safe." But Taylor was already unbuckling her seat belt. "I know, but Marcus, she had kids in the car and she just looked so alone. Please just drive back through the lot. If it seems sketchy, we keep going." Against his better judgment, Marcus did a U-turn and pulled back into the Target parking lot, circling slowly until they found the minivan again. It was still parked. The woman still had her head down and Taylor could now see that she was definitely crying. And then Taylor recognized the license plate frame, the one that said Kelce Strong with the Philadelphia Eagles logo. "Oh my God," Taylor said. "That's Kylie. That's Jason's wife." Marcus immediately understood. "You want to check on her?" "Yeah, but not with you hovering. Park a few spots away and give me some space." "Okay. I promise I'll be careful." Taylor grabbed a baseball cap from her bag, pulled it low over her face, and before Marcus could fully approve this plan, she was out of the SUV and walking toward Kylie's minivan. She could see Marcus positioning himself where he could see her, but far enough away to give them privacy, his hand near his radio in case things went wrong. Taylor approached the driver's side window and knocked gently, not wanting to startle Kylie, but needing to get her attention. Kylie's head snapped up at the knock, her face blotchy from crying, mascara smeared, hair in a messy bun that had seen better days. She wiped her eyes quickly with the back of her hand and rolled down the window, expecting maybe a concerned Target employee or another parent checking on her. Instead, she found herself looking at Taylor Swift, wearing a baseball cap and casual clothes, looking genuinely worried. For a moment, Kylie thought she was hallucinating. "Taylor," she managed to say, "what are you doing here?" Taylor gave her a soft smile. "I was driving by and I saw you and you looked like you were having the worst day and I couldn't keep driving." "Are you okay?" "That's a stupid question. Obviously you're not okay. Can I help somehow?" Kylie opened her mouth to say, "I'm fine." Because that's what you say when a celebrity catches you crying in a parking lot. But what came out instead was a choked laugh that was half sob. "I'm really not okay," she admitted. "But I don't think there's anything anyone can do about it." Taylor glanced at the back seat where all 3 kids had gone quiet, watching this famous stranger talk to their mother. Wyatt's eyes were wide. Elliotte was clutching her stuffed bunny. And Bennett had stopped fussing to stare at this new person. "Okay, here's what we're thinking," Taylor said, using that same warm, decisive energy that Travis loved about her. "My security guy Marcus is parked right over there in the black SUV, watching to make sure I'm safe. He's going to stay there and keep watch while I sit with you for a few minutes, okay? And we're going to figure this out together." Before Kylie could respond or question whether this was a good idea, Taylor had walked around to the passenger side of the minivan and climbed in, pulling off her cap and turning in her seat to face the kids. "Hi guys," she said with that same warm energy Kylie had seen her use at family dinners. "I'm Aunt Taylor and I think your mom could use some backup right now. Are you guys okay?" Wyatt, who had been mid-sulk and probably feeling guilty about what she'd said in the store, nodded slowly. "I was mean to Mommy," she said in a small voice. 3-year-old Elliotte's face lit up despite the tension. "Aunt Tay," she said, which was what she'd called Taylor ever since they'd first met. Bennett, not fully understanding who this person was, but sensing that his sisters were excited, started clapping his chubby hands together and saying, "Tata," which was his version of Taylor's name. Taylor turned back to Kylie with a gentle smile. "So, I'm guessing it's been one of those days where everything went wrong." Kylie let out a long breath and suddenly the whole story came tumbling out about Jason being gone for work, about the kids having meltdowns all day, about the Target trip from hell, about Wyatt saying she wished Taylor was her mom instead, about feeling like she was failing at everything and everyone would be better off without her. Taylor listened without interrupting, just nodding and making sympathetic sounds. And when Kylie finally ran out of words, Taylor said something that would stay with Kylie forever. First of all, Wyatt saying that thing about wishing I was her mom. That kid has no idea what she's talking about. I can barely keep my cats alive. You know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who got 3 kids to target by herself, which is already superhero-level achievement. I see someone who kept her cool when one of those kids said something hurtful in public, which would have made me cry right there in the aisle. And I see someone who's so exhausted from being an amazing mom that she finally let herself have a human moment in her car. That's not failing, Kylie. That's being real. Now, let me pause here and ask you something important. Have you ever had a moment where you were at your absolute lowest and someone showed up unexpectedly to help? Have you ever been that person for someone else? Drop a comment below about times when unexpected kindness changed your day. Because what happened next in that Target parking lot is something that happens to all of us in different ways. And maybe by sharing our stories, we can remember to be that person for others. Kylie wiped her eyes again, trying to pull herself together. Thank you for saying that, but you don't have to sit here and make me feel better. I'm sure you have places to be. Taylor shook her head. I have a tour bus parked about a mile from here where I'm supposed to be resting before tomorrow's show in New York. Marcus is probably having a heart attack right now because this wasn't part of the security plan. But you know what? Sometimes you have to break the plan. She glanced at the back seat. Hey guys, do you know what I do when I'm having a really bad day and I need to feel better? Wyatt, still looking guilty, shook her head. I scream really loud. Want to try it? Elliotte's eyes got huge. We can scream. We can absolutely scream, Taylor confirmed. In fact, we're going to have a screaming contest. Whoever screams the loudest wins. Your mom goes first. Kylie stared at Taylor. You want me to scream in a Target parking lot? I absolutely want you to scream in a Target parking lot. Come on. When's the last time you let yourself make noise? I'll do it with you on 3. 1, 2, 3. And then Taylor Swift and Kylie Kelce screamed at the top of their lungs in a Target parking lot in Philadelphia while 3 kids in the back seat stared in amazement. Then the kids joined in. Wyatt's high-pitched scream, Elliotte's delighted shriek, Bennett's enthusiastic, ah. About 30 feet away, Marcus raised his hand to his radio, clearly debating whether this constituted an emergency, but Taylor caught his eye through the windshield and gave him a thumbs up, and he relaxed slightly, though he still looked deeply uncomfortable with this entire situation. Feel better? Taylor asked after their screaming had dissolved into laughter. Weirdly, yes, Kylie admitted. That was insane. But yes. Now here's what we're going to do, Taylor said. You're going to drive home and you're going to let those kids watch extra TV today because that's what you do on hard days. And tomorrow, you're going to call Jason and tell him exactly how hard this weekend was because he needs to know. And next time you feel like this, you're going to text me because I might not be able to come to every Target parking lot in America, but I can at least answer my phone. She pulled out her phone. What's your number? And I mean your actual cell, not the family group chat. Kylie gave her number, still somewhat in shock that this was actually happening. Taylor sent her a quick text. Target parking lot survival team. You're doing amazing. Then she turned to the kids. Wyatt, come here for a second. Wyatt unbuckled and leaned forward, nervous. Taylor looked at her seriously. Your mom told me what you said in the store about wishing I was your mom. Can I tell you a secret? Wyatt nodded. I would be a terrible mom. I travel all the time. I work weird hours. I eat cereal for dinner. And I definitely don't know how to make pasta sauce like your mom does. But your mom, she's the real deal. She gets you to school and makes sure you eat vegetables and stays up when you're sick and loves you even when you say mean things because you're having a bad day. That's a superhero and you're so lucky to have her. Wyatt's eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean it what I said. I love my mom. I know you didn't mean it, Taylor said gently. But maybe tell her that when you get home, okay? Wyatt nodded and immediately said, I'm sorry, Mommy. I love you so much. You're the best, Mom. Kylie reached back and squeezed her daughter's hand. I love you too, baby. We all have hard days. Taylor spent another 10 minutes in that minivan talking to Kylie about marriage and motherhood and the weird pressure of being connected to famous people, about feeling inadequate and overwhelmed, about the guilt that comes with asking for help. She told Kylie about her own anxieties, about the pressure of the tour and missing Travis and feeling like she was constantly letting someone down. And Kylie told Taylor about the isolation of being a football wife, about the judgment from other parents, about loving her life, but also sometimes feeling buried by it. Two women from completely different worlds finding exactly the same ground to stand on in a Target parking lot on a Sunday afternoon. Finally, Taylor glanced at her phone and saw several increasingly urgent texts from Marcus. "I have to go," she said. "My security guy is about to call the National Guard, but Kylie, I mean it about texting me. And I'll see you at the next family dinner." "Okay." "Thank you," Kylie said, and her voice broke on the words. "Not just for stopping but for being real with me, for not being perfect." Taylor smiled. "Nobody's perfect. We're all just doing our best and hoping it's good enough." She pulled Kylie into a quick hug, waved at the kids, and then slipped out of the minivan, pulling her cap back on and walking quickly back to where Marcus was waiting with visible relief. As Taylor climbed back into the SUV, Marcus said, "You know that violated about 6 security protocols, right?" "I know," Taylor said, "but it was the right thing to do." "Travis is going to hear about this," Marcus warned. "Good," Taylor said. "He'll understand." That evening, when Jason called from New York to check in, Kylie told him the whole story. "I had a complete breakdown in a Target parking lot today, and Taylor Swift stopped her car and sat with me for 20 minutes and made us all scream," she said, and then laughed at how absolutely ridiculous that sentence sounded out loud. Jason was quiet for a moment, then said, "You know what this means, right? We have to keep her. Travis has to marry her because I'm not losing a sister-in-law who does parking lot interventions." 2 weeks later, at their next family dinner, Kylie pulled Taylor aside and handed her a small wrapped box. Inside was a bracelet with a tiny charm that said, "Target 7.4T4. And Taylor immediately put it on, hugging Kylie tight. And Wyatt, who had worried she was in big trouble for what she'd said, received her own special note from Taylor that read, "Dear Wyatt, everyone says things they don't mean when they're having big feelings. The important thing is saying sorry after, which you did perfectly. Your mom is lucky to have you and you're lucky to have her. Love, Aunt Taylor." So, here's what I want to know from you. Have you ever had a parking lot moment, that breaking point where everything felt like too much? And did someone show up for you? Or were you the person who showed up for someone else? Share your stories in the comments, because Kylie and Taylor's experience is something so many of us live through in different ways. And maybe by talking about it, we can all remember to be a little more observant, a little more willing to stop the car and check if someone's okay. If this story touched your heart and made you think about the unexpected friendships in your own life, hit that like button and subscribe for more honest stories about the messy, beautiful reality behind celebrity relationships. Share this with another parent who's had a Target parking lot moment. Because sometimes the most important thing we can do for each other is just show